9 times, thanks.
Okay. So for the Saints coaching staff and front office ended yesterday, but a very long week of uncertainty looms ahead. Jim Basquill looks at the organization twisting slowly in the wind until Tom Benson decides what can breathe new life into a franchise that's currently on life support.
We know their immediate past is 3-13. What's in question is their future. Does he stay? Does he go? Do they both go? Or does everything stay the same? Tom Benson denies reports that the coach stays, the GM goes, and while no decision comes until Thursday, we are told the assistants can explore other coaching opportunities. The uncertain futures of Mike Ditka and Bill Kuharich is based on a 3-year record of 15 wins, 33 losses, something the players take blame for.
A little more motivation to come in the next year and make sure this doesn't happen again.
As individuals, we have to get better. I mean, each person has to get better, and we have to play better as a team.
I think we just need to get our key people healthy and then have people able to step up when injuries do occur. You know, that's what we didn't have.
As Saints players cleared out their lockers today, they acknowledge moves will be made, but believe this same cast can turn it around.
I think the players here are good enough to win and win big in this league. We've just got to play better.
One such player is Jake Delhomme. The quarterback thinks regardless of who's the coach and whether or not they bring in a veteran quarterback, he deserves consideration in Y2K.
I think I played well enough to be here. I don't think I played well enough yesterday to be the guy. So say, throwing 4 picks, you can't win anywhere in the league doing that. But I mean, it was a learning experience. I'm going to learn from it.
It's a sad day.
It could even be sadder for him or him come Thursday. From Saints Camp, Jim Basquill, Channel 4, Eyewitness Sports.
Tom Benson sits in the solitude of the galley of his yacht moored in South Florida. In front of him sit the bruised and decaying apple that is the Saints franchise, 4 implements, a cleaver, a paring knife, a polishing cloth, and a calculator, and a copy of his December 7th promise to Saints fans to do whatever it takes to restore the franchise's long-absent winning ways. What to do? Take the cleaver to the apple, which some would say is rotten to the core, hacking away at it, discarding major sections of it, retaining only what must and should be retained? Employ the paring knife, carefully excising only the most obvious damage that's readily apparent, disregarding deeper problems that can be overlooked for now. Or pick up the polishing cloth, rotating the apple in an ever-increasing off-season spin of positive statements, public relations slogans, and selective imaging until some semblance of a luster returns to its skin while nothing below the surface is disturbed. And as he contemplates his choices, Benson's fingers are drawn almost compulsively to the calculator, the one implement he has always understood best, the one thing in a business that still baffles him in many ways, that has always ultimately determined his course. In a sea roiling with choices, all of them unpleasant, none of them offering a certain solution, it is the hard and absolute figures of the bottom line in which he has always found guidance and direction. The cleaver, the paring knife, the polishing cloth, the calculator, tools of the trade, to be considered, to be discarded, to be used. But which, in what combination, to shape the form of a franchise's future, which at the moment looks as bleak as its immediate past. And so the waiting continues until...
ABC 26 presents Monday Night Sports.
Well, welcome into Monday Night Sports, the final Monday Night Sports for us this season. We're really bumming about that, too, aren't we?
Boy, you sound disappointed.
We like doing the show, but it's a little late.
With glee. And perhaps the final hurrah this week for Saints coach Mike Ditka and general manager Bill Kuharich. But first,
Ed, Saints fans moving a little slow today. They're slamming those aspirins, avoiding loud noise and bright nights, but we're nursing another one of those season hangovers, losing season hangovers. And after the New Year's blowout loss to the Panthers, the question is this the last call for Ditka ball?
What do you guys think? Whatever you think, say. I don't know. I don't control it. I don't control it because I don't control it.
Mike Ditka's career with the Saints is awaiting a decision from the man that does control it, Tom Benson. While Green Bay, New England, and the New York Jets all had coaching changes on the day after their final games, Tom Benson and his wife are sipping cool ones on their yacht in Palm Beach, Florida. No sense of urgency here. He'll meet with Ditka and Bill Kuharich on Wednesday or Thursday. Inebriated with joy in April, Saints fans woke up yesterday laying next to that Ricky Williams trade. 12 total yards on 19 touches against Carolina. What do we do now? Buy him breakfast or just sneak out while he's sleeping? Willie Rofe has a serious case of the bitter beer face, nourishing a 3-year Ditka ball hangover. He's longing to pop the champagne of a playoff appearance, but at his age and this organization's shape, he may be bar hopping.
When you lose a whole draft, you lose depth to your team, and we're lacking a lot of spots, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Everyone's mad, but now what? A designated driver, a taxi, or do we just sleep it off?
You know, it's going to be a long off season for us.
If this is the last call for Ditka ball, it will most certainly be a 2-for-1 special, meaning team president, COO, and general manager Bill Cahart will have more problems than titles. Again, Ditka and Benson, they're scheduled to meet on Thursday here in New Orleans. Now the coaching...
I think the one thing that Ditka really hurt himself with is not only his decisions at quarterback, but the personnel decisions in general. I mean, this is just not a roster I don't think that can compete in the NFL, although coaching does make a difference. Right. The Panthers didn't have a #1 pick this year. George Seifert came in with much of the same team that he inherited, and he did a very fine job this year.
And he had a high quarterback. I mean, and a healthy one. You know.
That's right. And the Saints don't even have a guy in the class of Steve Berline, which ought to tell you about their quarterback situation. Well, the Saints' 1999 season, and of course Sunday in Carolina in the year 2000, was one continuous breakdown. Among the Saints' many needs, quarterback, fullback, and high-priced rookies who need some NFL experience while enduring some growing pains.
The final game of Ricky Williams' rookie year was forgettable. Here, guard Tom Ackerman pulls to make a kickout block. Ricky should have cut it back inside, putting his head down and making tough yards. Instead, Ricky headed for the sideline. On blitz pickup, Ricky learned the hard way. Don't cut, one of the NFL's great sack masters, Kevin Green. The Saints desperately need a blocking fullback like Carolina's William Floyd. Pops linebacker Phil Clark clearing the way for a 7-yard gain for Tim Biakabatuka. Here's Floyd again, smacking Mark Fields, then clearing the way for Biakabatuka. In 1997 and 98, Ditka started 4 different quarterbacks each year. In 99, Jake Delhomme was his third. Continuity
factor, too. That'll do it for Monday Night Sports. We'll see you live tomorrow night from the Superdome at 6:30 for Nokia Sugar Bowl Live. Nightline is next. Good night for all of us at ABC 26 Sports.
Live from the Fox 8 studios, a local sports show like you've never experienced. It's smart, alive, and unpredictable. Fox 8 Sports Sunday.
Hello again, everybody. I'm Jim Gallagher, and welcome to a special edition of Fox 8 Sports Sunday. Now, if you're paying attention, you know it's not Sunday, so it must be a special edition. I'm Jim Gallagher, of course. With me, as always, Joe Trahan, Darrell Green, and 5-time Pro Bowler, the 1991 NFC Defensive Player of the Year, potential general manager candidate, Pat Swilling.
Let's start throwing it out there right now, Patrick.
Obviously,
I want the job.
Obviously, exactly. Put down the gauntlet. Of course, guys, everybody, we know why Mike Ditka fired today. Very simple. In 1985, his Bears won 15 games on their way to the Super Bowl. It took him 3 years to equal that total here in New Orleans.
I don't want a 5-year deal. I wanted 3 years if I can't make a difference. And I can't help this organization. The coaching staff I brought in 3 years, then I shouldn't be here.
Mike Ditka didn't live up to his promise. Today, he paid the price.
You can say anything you want to or write anything you want to. We did a lot of good things, so maybe they didn't work out.
Did you fight for your job today? Did you fight for your job, Coach?
No, it was clear cut. There was no way. It was just a clear cut decision.
Ditka's downfall will be traced to a few problems, including bad personnel decisions, many at quarterback. It all started with Heath Shuler back in '97. Shuler was followed by Danny Werfel, Doug Nussmeier, and Billy Joe Hobert. Hobert started '98 as the team starter, but he didn't even last a full game. Werfel, Billy Joe Tolliver, and Kerry Collins followed him. Hobert again started '99, this time making it into the 3rd game of the season before he was hurt. He was followed by Tolliver, Werfel, and finally, Jake Delhomme. Draft day decisions were also troubling. In '97, Ditka surprised many by reaching for guard Chris Nioli in round number 1. The next year, the Saints skipped over talents like Randy Moss and chose tackle Kyle Turley. And then last year, perhaps the biggest decision of the Ditka era, trading 8 picks, including 2 number 1s, for Heisman Trophy winner Ricky Williams. The fans loved the decision at the time, and Mike Ditka promised the playoffs.
If I'm going to say it, I'm going to say it loud, and I want everybody to hear it. We're going to win the Super Bowl. And I'm not talking about 10 years from now either, gang.
The decision certainly hasn't panned out yet. Injuries cost Ricky much of '99. He did rush for over 800 yards, but he never came close this season to the form he showed at the University of Texas.
A lot of simple reasons, of course, actually a lot of complex reasons why Mike Ditka let go today. Bill Kuharich, a lot of assistant coaches. Pat, your take on this?
Well, I think it was something that was going to happen. I think I'm surprised it didn't happen earlier during the year when they started to really lose. But at this point, I think it was something that was inevitable. Considering the 3-13 loss, the way the organization was going, the inability to motivate players, it goes on and on. I think it was a great move today.
Were you surprised that it was as sweeping as it was?
I really was. I was surprised that Terry O'Neill and also Xavier and a couple other coaches was caught up in the wash. But I do understand what Mr. Benson is trying to do, and that's clean house, bring in a whole different organization. I think get those players and get them excited again, and also get the city excited again about bringing in someone new.
As a former player, how do players take a decision like this, a sweeping decision to completely clean house?
Hey guys, it's a wake up. It's a wake up for the players. I think there are a lot of players sleepwalking over there. They won't sleepwalk tomorrow, okay? They have to understand they'll go out and work hard and get ready for this coming season, because there's a new coach coming to town, and he's going to watch some old film, and there are going to be some guys that he's going to get rid of because of those films.
You know, we talked to a couple of guys in the locker room, you know, right as the season ended, and each to a man said that if this happens, and they, in that sense, was a big if back then, if this happens, what you said about a wake-up call is exactly right, because all of these guys in that last couple of games of the year, and those last couple of games, were playing for jobs for a new man, because like you said, they're going to pull that old reel.
Without a doubt.
Right, well, as we continue with our roundtable discussion, when we look at Mike Ditka, Pat, I guess really, in your mind, what was the biggest reason that he did not succeed here in New Orleans?
Well, I think it's inability to choose the right talent out there. I think the free agent market, also even the draft picks, they were horrible at times. I mean, there's some guys on the roster who never had potential, but never really played well. But I think his inability to go out into the free agent market and bring in players in here that could really play, instead of getting guys who can maybe be backups for other teams, that's what really caused his demise.
You know what shocked me today was when Iron Mike told Joe, it was just a little while ago, that he really believed the game had passed him by.
That shocked me as well.
That's something he would never admit during the season.
Let me tell you what he said, guys, and it's simple. He said he liked to cultivate players. He liked to get them in, make them his kind of guys. In the NFL today, you simply cannot do that because of the advent of free agency. It's a whole different world. Mike said he's beginning to understand that.
Right, and I think the 90s kids are a lot different, and also the free agent market with all the money out there, you don't have time to cuddle a guy and bring him in and make him one of your guys. This guy has to be one of your guys when he gets there, and he has to be a player, and that's the only way it can be played these days. The game has changed since the early 80s when Mike was out there winning championships.
Are you shocked that Mike said he'd never coach again?
No, I'm not. I'm not. I'll say this, and I've been around and heard a lot of people say this. I think Mike at this point is more of a celebrity than he is a coach. He was a great coach at a time, but I think times have changed, and even the players are not as motivated as they used to be.
And it's harder to get to those players now, too. He hinted at that when I talked to him a few minutes ago. He didn't come right out and say it, but it's harder to get them to play Ditka ball. And the thing I thought that really hurt him this year was they didn't have that buy-in game. When they lost all those close games early on, they couldn't get that big win. They couldn't get over the hump. He lost some of those players.
Without a doubt.
All right, guys, we're just getting started. Mike Ditka, just one of many people let go today. When we get back, we're going to get the players' reaction and also talk to an assistant coach, a local guy who was caught up in the wash today, as Fox 8 Sports Sunday Special Edition rolls on.
Welcome back to this special edition of Fox 8 Sports Sunday. We talked about some of the coaches, Mike Ditka. Now the players, guys, from the ones I talked to, it went anywhere from shock to being very anxious about having their jobs. As a matter of fact, let's get right to it. We got some player reaction for you to today's events.
Yeah, I was extremely surprised. Didn't expect anything today, but you know, when you go 3-13, something's got to give, and this is the direction Mr. Benson decided to go, and it's unfortunate because ultimately it's the players who didn't win the games. But I guess like what everybody says is it's part of the deal, and it'll happen to players eventually during the offseason too.
You go as a team, and we live and die as a team, and that's the players, and then the people that lead them. And unfortunately, when things go bad, the people at the top take the heat.
I mean, everybody knows how we had a bunch of games at the beginning of the year slip away, and we had some key players go down at just some crucial times. And, you know, you can't point the finger to one man or just, you know, say it was all coaching or it was all players or all front office. You know, it's a combination of, you know, people failing when they should have succeeded, and, you know, it's just a combination of things.
We mentioned the wake-up call that all these players have gotten. Of course, Doug Bryant has been one of the most consistent kickers in the league the past 3 years. He says he's worried about his job. He says he's got 2 years left on his contract, but that doesn't mean diddly now because you got a new GM coming in and a new coach coming in. He might have his own guys, and those other players could be looking for a job.
Here's a memo to Doug Bryant. I think he won't be back in his
I think he won't either, but
feel real good about
that's
Doug
just
Bryant.
a note about what an impact,
But there's some other guys
immediate
that
impact
had
this
better
has.
they had better be worried over there. Exactly.
Let me ask you this, Pat. Is this a better team than the one Mike Ditka inherited back in 1996? 3-13, same exact record, kind of the same situation, coach being let go. What do you think?
I don't think so, and I've heard people say they have better talent, but I haven't seen. If you're 3-13, you can have better talent. If you don't play together and play as a football team, then no, they're not. I don't think so.
I think they have better individual talent, Pat,
Maybe
but
so.
has it gelled? I'd have to agree with you,
and that's
obviously,
my
by the
thing.
record.
So,
That's one of the things that Sammy Knight said in the postmortem on Monday. He said, you know what, we had a lot of good talent, a ton of potential, 2 Heisman Trophy winners on this team.
Well,
but
my thing is, I still see a lot of coaches talking about
together.
holes that need to be filled, and if you have better talent, then you don't have those holes. But I don't see but one defensive back. We need an inside linebacker, we need a quarterback, fullback. It goes on and on, guys.
Well, one of the things that an assistant coach told me, he's going to go unnamed. I asked him that same question I asked you just a moment ago, Pat, and he said to me, no. And his reasoning wasn't talent-wise. His reasoning was the way this team played. In '96, if you remember, this team may have been struggling, but they played very hard football. They were in every single game they played, won a game, but they played very tough. You didn't see that same level of intensity down the stretch that you did with this team.
I got to tell you, though, the year before Ditka got here, some of the offense that I saw was some of the worst offense I've ever seen in the NFL. And while it got pretty bad at times under Mike, I never saw that. I mean, it was just horrible. Right before Jim Mora quit, I mean, that's the worst I've seen in the NFL, period.
All right, guys.
Full stop.
You think that these players are worried? What about these assistant coaches that have to go out and hit the market again? We caught up with Bobby April at home this evening. Obviously, like everyone else, he was a little shocked and taken aback at the fact that next year he's not going to have a job, or at least not for now. But by the same token, this is kind of like, you know, when you're going down on an airplane, you kind of know what to expect.
They're never neat, clean, and tidy when the really hard, tough decisions are made. So from that deal, I know he's agonizing over it. And, you know, it's not easy for him either. So he's doing what he thinks is best, and I hope it is. And again, the decisions he makes in the next month, I hope are the best.
Bobby, of course, talking about Mr. Benson and the agony he had to go through. The airplane thing, okay, it didn't work. But what I meant was these coaches, let me tell you something, when you're wrapping up a 3-13 season, you play every scenario out in your mind long before the last game is played. So obviously, to a man, I don't think there was one of these coaches who didn't anticipate this.
Yeah, and Bobby said it. He said he was still surprised when it happened in the sweeping manner. But they all knew something was going to happen. They've been around the NFL too long to not know that heads are going to roll when you go 6-10, 6-10, and 3-13.
Well, as we continue our roundtable discussion, let's talk about a couple individual assistant coaches, and let's get into offensive coordinator Danny Abramowitz. What do you see as the future for Danny?
Well, I think Danny will probably wind up on his feet somewhere, or land on his feet somewhere. I think he still can be a very, very great, very good special team coach. You know, offensive coordinator was quite a leap for him, but I think he's still a good coach, and there's other positions he can go out there and still coach and do a good job.
What about defensive coordinator Xavier Urelian?
Well, I believe Xavier would land on his feet as well because Xavier is a good coach. I don't think he had the players this year to play the type of defense he was trying to play. I think early on they did pretty well. guys were fresh, but when guys got worn down, he didn't have any guys to come in that could really lift them up and keep them going at that level.
See, in my mind, a coaching is one thing of it, but it really comes down to talent. Look at all the good Saints coaches around the league who are Jim Haslett, Jimmy Morris, Steve Sidwell. I mean, the list goes on and on. There are a lot of good coaches who are coaching playoff team. Dom Capers is coaching a great Jaguars defense, and you got to have the horses, don't you?
Players win and players play, guys. If you don't have players, but coaches have to put in those guys in those positions. But if those guys don't have the players and the talent, you're not going to win in this league.
I was talking to Rick Venturi once, and I think this was even back toward training camp. He said the biggest difference between the college game and the pro game, in college you take a young man, you mold him to do what's right. In the pros, you have to take a guy, look at what he does good, and coach him from there.
Right.
So it all boils down to talent and what you have to work with.
And I think that was part of the demise of this club. Instead of, adapting to what the players that they had could do well, they tried to fit them into a mold. And that mold just did not work.
And I'll say one thing, great coaches find a way to coach those players and put them in a scheme where they can play at their best and the highest level each week. And I think you're right. Sometimes I don't think the Saints coaches were doing that with their players. And players can't, some players are limited. There's just some things players can't do.
Look at what George Seifert did at Carolina. Carolina, I mean, an 8-8 ball club. I mean, he really, in my opinion, didn't have a ton to work with, but he molded them, and as you said, he developed an offensive scheme that they could work with and exploit their talents.
Exactly.
All right, guys, we're going to take another break. We're going to talk about what's next for Tom Benson, what he's got to do down the line, and also we're going to talk about some potential candidates. Plus, we'll talk about those other front office firings. It's all coming way, so stay close.
Thanks for joining us for a special edition of Fox 8 Sports Sunday. This is actually Fox 8 Sports Wednesday, so if you see Sunday, it's the failure of your set.
That one didn't work either, brother. You are 0 for 2 tonight.
It's not Sunday.
That is not going to get you into the major leagues, brother. Not into the Hall of Fame.
Obviously, I'm not the only guy having a bad day. Bill Kuharich was part of this organization for 14 years. He basically grew up with the Saints. I mean, Tom Benson was very close to this guy. He watched him grow up all the way through the ranks, but unfortunately, after 3.5 years as general manager, he too had to go today. Bill's reaction, plain and simple.
I want to thank Mike Ditka for working with him for the last 3 years, and Mike, I appreciate everything you did, and look forward to moving on to my next adventure.
Now the question is, what will that next adventure be for Bill Kuharich? I mean, he's been locked into this organization for so long. Obviously, he's got friends out in the league, but there really isn't a clamor for a general manager out there right now.
I don't know if he's going to find another GM's job right away, but he's going to find a job as far as player personnel, scouting. I mean, he knows a lot of guys in the National Football League. But, to me, it really came down to very simple. I mean, hiring Mike Ditka, in my mind, saved Bill Kuharich's job 3 years ago. They were really tight in, weren't they, Pat?
I think so, and I think at this point, if Mike Ditka has to go, then Bill Kuharich has to go as well, because of them being joined at the hip, and because of, I think, of all the other moves that were made for the organization that just didn't work out, just didn't pan out for the organization. So I wasn't surprised that, both of those guys had to go, and some other guys as well.
How much of the fault lies with Bill Kuharich?
Well, I think a lot of it does, because as a general manager, you have to be able to direct that coach sometimes in different manners as far as choosing players and doing things for the organization. And it comes a time when there's a player or someone out there that maybe the coach wants and you don't want. You got to be strong enough to stand up and say, hey, we're not going after this player. I want this other guy. He's better for the organization. And I don't think that happened out there.
All right.
It's going to be tough, though, because with the record the Saints have had, and having Bill being at the helm, it's going to be tough for him to find a quality job in this league, only because of the bottom line. And when I talked with Mike Ditka about it, he said that was it. The bottom line is winning and losing. It's a business now, and if you don't get that done, it's hard to find a job.
Well, I think he'll find another job, maybe doing some other things in a different capacity for some organization, because when he was there with Jim Finks, he did a lot of different things, player personnel, those kind of things. So I still think that he'll find a job, and I think he loves and wants to be a part of some organization in doing football.
Right. I was shocked this morning when we got the announcement that Terry O'Neill had been let go. Right. I mean, I think there were a lot of people that thought that Terry O'Neill would be one of the people to kind of sneak in the back door if all this happened, and he didn't.
Right, I mean, when you look at it, Tom Benson handing him the reins of basically renegotiating the Superdome lease and all those things that tie it financially, this was a kind of a shock to some people, though. If you talk to other people around the league, some people would tell you there might have been a bit of a division lately between Terry O'Neill and Tom Benson and the rest of those front office people.
And I've heard a little bit about that, but I thought based on his ability to do Ricky Williams' contract, that may be one of the things that may keep him around, because, unfortunately, a lot of people say Ricky's contract isn't very good. but Terry saved the organization a lot of money.
Millions of dollars. Millions of dollars.
And I thought that may be one key factor in Mr. Benson keeping him, but I do understand. Cleaning house for someone else to come in with a clean slate and go in whatever direction, bring their cap guy in to do their job. Right. I do understand, you know, in that way that Mr. Benson was thinking.
Well, speaking of bringing in another guy, that's what we're going to talk about when we come back. We're going to talk about potential candidates. Who's a possible GM? Who's a possible head coach? We'll break it down for you, so stay close. Welcome back to Fox 8 Sports Sunday. We talked a lot about the guys who didn't make it. One guy who did make it was Charlie Bailey, the personnel director. He's going to be on board, at least for now. All the scouts, Hokie Gaijan, a local favorite from LSU, Bruce Lemmerman, the head of scouting, those guys will stay for now. Generally, Pat, the way it works is at least they'll stay through the draft, correct?
Right, because those guys have done all the work with the drafts and everything. They know the younger players coming out. And once the GM is brought in, then he'll make that decision on whether he want to keep those guys once the draft is over.
But it's hard to say we're going to just cut right now.
No,
because you have it may take a month or so to find a guy. You don't want to lose the Senior Bowl,
right,
all those bowl things, do you?
Someone have to be out there still looking at players and trying to get ready for the free agent market and doing those things. And you have to have those guys aboard. And you know, those are valuable people for you at this point.
And that's especially important with the Saints, with the fact that they don't have a whole lot of draft picks. So those guys are going to become extra important whether they lose their jobs or not later on.
Well, let's start talking about some potential guys. And the name, at least, that I'm hearing a lot already around the National Football League is well, let's start with head coaches candidates first. Mike Martz, Rams offensive coordinator, a guy who was with the Washington Redskins before, certainly has turned that offense around. Another potential head coaching candidate, Dom Capers, the Jaguars defensive coordinator, a guy who was here, was the 1996 NFL defensive coordinator, NFL Coach of the Year. Steve Sidwell, here before. Here's a guy the Patriots have gone downhill, yet his defense 8th in the National Football League. Just a ball coach, no doubt about that. And then another guy who's been rumored for a lot of jobs, turned a few down, is Gary Kubiak, the Broncos offensive coordinator. So definitely some guys out there. And then, Pat, maybe another guy that we may think about down the line as far as a head coaching candidate. All those guys certainly quality guys. Right. What about Marty Schottenheimer? Here's a guy who's only had one losing season, I think, in 13, always a perennial playoff team. But he's going to want some control, isn't he?
A lot of control, and that's the kind of guy Marty is. But the one thing that bothers me about Marty is whether he can deal with these kids of the 90s. I think that last year when he retired, he had a lot of problems over there where a lot of different guys wanted to do the things they want to do. The younger kids coming in, doing things a little different, and he really didn't like the way things were going there in Kansas City. So I don't know if he want to jump back into what's going on in the National Football League at this point.
But how much that last year, he lost control.
He really did.
I mean, Donnie Edwards was out of control.
Exactly.
That other decent linebacker by the name of Derek Thomas, he saw what he did on Monday night. I mean, against a couple of players. He lost control of that football team. And secondly, do we really want to hire another coach out of the booth back on the sidelines, a guy who's been away from the game? Is that something the Saints want to do?
Well, I would think there's some younger guys out there that maybe, because this team could be 3, maybe 5 years, even more, from really growing and becoming the football team that everyone wants to see it be. And I think Don Capers and some guys, other guys like that, who younger guys, who's been around, who can deal with those type of players at this point. Maybe a guy, and maybe a direction. Gary Kubiak's a good offensive mind. You know, he's an exciting type of coach. Those younger guys, maybe the guys in maybe a direction you want to go in.
Let's walk people through the process. The Saints, obviously, Mr. Benson will go out looking for a GM first. A name that's been batted around a lot is Charlie Casserly. Used to be with the Redskins. Pat, what's your take on this guy?
Well, I've heard about Charlie, and I know he's been around, and he has a great football mind. Hey, guys, he's been around a long time. I think he was one of the guys who structured the deal with the Saints for Ricky Williams. So
what comes around goes around.
Right. He structured that great deal for Washington. So he's a guy who's been around. I've heard the only knock I've heard against the guy is he hasn't had really great drafts. And the Saints can't afford any more bad drafts.
The stat, Joe's got a great stat.
I got this stat. In this decade, through his first 9 draft choices, he has had 0 players in the Pro Bowl in rounds 1 through 4 until this year. Now, with that said, he's pulled off some great moves in free agency. He brought Brad Johnson in there, and the Redskins are now in the playoffs. So it's taken him a while, but he's gotten there. And let me tell you something. The Saints have never gotten there. They never won a playoff game, so getting there would be better than the alternative.
Well, his last couple of drafts, though, have been better. I mean, Trey Johnson is going to the Pro Bowl. Stephen Davis is going to the Pro Bowl off his drafts. John Runyon is starting. Champ Bailey is starting. Got tight end. They got Steven Alexander, was an alternate to the Pro Bowl this year. So the last couple of years, he's drafted better. So, and I'll tell you what, I just know this for a fact. You got to trust me on this. He's been researching this team for over a month.
He's been looking at different people.
I've heard he's watching film on this.
Watching film on this team, looking at this team. He's had his eye on this.
He's not really excited about the film he's watching, I'm sure, but he's watching.
If you're, all right, Charlie, let's say whoever the general manager is, Pat, and we've only got about 45 seconds left in the show. What do you need to do first to turn this team around?
Well, I think you have to get rid of some of the free agents or some of the players on the football team who didn't contribute or who aren't going to contribute. And some of those players are going to be, some of the guys in some of Ditka's prior drafts. And also you have 10 or 15 guys on that roster that shouldn't be there. And I think the guy that comes in here, he's going to clean his roster and try his best to find some players who can contribute and help win football games.
How much money does this team have to spend under the cap?
$17 million. They can make up to $17 million.
Anywhere from 12 to 17.
Right.
I hope it's wisely spent.
This Castley guy's made some good deals. Remember the deal he made with Carolina, giving up Sean Gilbert, got a couple of number ones, then he kind of snookered the Saints. So they need those kind of deals, so don't be surprised if he's the guy.
All I know is this. First thing he better do is go out and find a quarterback, because you've got to have a quarterback. That's all I got to say.
A little bit.
Remember, Pat is available for general manager duties. Guys, thank you very much for joining us for this special edition of Fox 8 Sports Sunday. We hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you later on down the line. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Good evening and welcome to Sportspage. I'm Ken Trahan. Necessary measures. That's what Tom Benson took just over a week ago when he dismissed his general manager and president, as well as his head coach, all of his staff, and another executive in Terry O'Neill. Necessary measures. When you bite off almost $14 million in salaries, that would be a testament to your desire to try to get it right. Tom Benson very clearly is trying to get it right. It wasn't easy. He was very fond of Bill Kuharich and Mike Ditka. Unfortunately for Tom Benson, he came to the realization that what he had wrought was not working whatsoever. Necessary measures. That's what he must do now to get the man in charge of football to run his operation autonomously. If he can offer that person everything necessary to be successful, he can get his man. Necessary measures? That would be Charlie Casserly, the top man for the job, the top target from day one. Should Tom Benson land Casserly, it would make yet another statement to the people and fans of New Orleans that he is very serious about winning in New Orleans and about staying in New Orleans. And that is what I would consider necessary measures. Welcome back to Sportspage. Well, the Saints season is history, and so are many employees who were with the Saints previously. One who fortunately is still with the New Orleans Saints and has been since the late 70s would be Senior Vice President Greg Sue. Greg, it's great to have you with us. Happy New Year to you.
Thank you, and good to be with you.
And of course, I said that almost in jest, but there was no jest intended, because these are tough times when you have friends that lose jobs.
Yeah, they really are, and I think Tom Benson said it well when he addressed the staff. He said, I had everything I wanted, and he was talking about relationships except winning. And that's really the bottom line for any professional sports organization, and these changes are being made for a purpose. It's hard to see friends leave, but we have to win. And the point now is to make sure that whatever comes next moves us in that direction.
I think more than anything else, what I derive from these changes, and frankly I was surprised that it swept as clean as it did, would be these two things. Number one, Tom Benson's committed to trying to win here in New Orleans, which is the second thing. New Orleans, this franchise isn't going anywhere.
No, Tom's made that clear. All of these things are, I think, very indicative, as you said, of his commitment to winning here. He takes about a little more than a $13 million hickey financially to move these people out of the organization, bring new people in. That is, if none of them get jobs, that'll be the payout on these employees who just left. So he is committed. There's no question about that.
This particular franchise, and your job, of course, lies in marketing and promoting. You've had a tough job. This franchise hasn't won since 1992, so as a result, marketing efforts, promotion efforts have been largely geared toward personalities, a la Mike Ditka and most recently Ricky Williams.
Right. We've been fortunate in these times when we haven't been as successful as we would have liked on the field to have a couple of marquee individuals in the organization that we could sort of hang our marketing hat on, theme our marketing and advertising to. And that was pretty effective, I'd say, as Mike Ditka came into the organization in '97, Ricky Williams last year. But I think the bottom line now is for us to be successful on the field. My job and the people that I work with, our mission is to make us as successful as a business as we possibly can, whatever the circumstances.
The biggest question most everyone would have is the time frame involved in having someone in place to run your football operation. And I guess that would be the paramount question at this point. How long before Mr. Benson has someone in place?
Well, Tom Benson knows how to go about this. He's done it before. It's very important to be nimble right now because Other clubs in this league are looking, and others still will be looking for coaches, for top administrators between now and the Super Bowl. So you don't want to be last in line. We're out there right now, and I think you'll see, particularly on the general manager, president position, I think you'll see something taking place there pretty quickly. I would say in a matter of days or weeks.
You've seen it about as bad as it can get. You've seen it as good as it's been here, and then bad again. So there's an obvious formula that's been successful here, and that's what Tom took initially when he went out and hired Jim Finks and allowed him to run his operation and hire his coach.
Get the right people on board, give them the opportunity to do their job, to guide the organization. The important thing is that you are going about it just like any business with one vision, with one individual in charge, one person's the right vision, successful vision, but one vision about how to go about the business. And I think that's where we're headed.
Obviously, when the general manager is in place, he'll have autonomy. That's pretty certain the way things look right now. And that's got to be an attraction if you're competing for an individual. And I guess Charlie Casserly comes to mind because his name has been linked most recently with and most prominently with the New Orleans Saints job. When you can offer autonomy, it's got to be an attractive situation.
I think the fact if a person looking at the top job with the New Orleans Saints would look at the fan base here, the way this franchise has been supported regardless of the performance on the field over time, they'd look at Tom Benson as an owner who has never said no to any financial issue that has the prospect of making this team better. He's been very magnanimous with his top people insofar as giving them financial resources to compete in this league this day. And taking that a step further, we're going to have some money to spend on football players, which is not something that everyone in the National Football League will be able to say in 2000.
Very well positioned at about $17 million under the cap. The Saints have done some other things in the community from a marketing and promotion standpoint that have been very positive that you've been involved with, and some not as directly involved with. First and foremost, of course, you had a television show, Inside Saints, that you used as a really nice marketing tool and focused on what some of the positive things in the organization were and what people were doing in the community. Your players are very responsive in that regard. In addition to that, you have a number of other ventures that have been marketed. Saints Hall of Fame, you're involved with the board of directors there, which has been a positive influence for the Saints in the community, and there are others as well where the Saints are concerned. So there have been some things that have taken place that have been good from the Saints' perspective.
There are a lot of teams in the NFL that would like to have the relationship with the community, the relationship with the fans, and the opportunity to do the things one-on-one, face-to-face at street level with fans that we've had to do as much as anything because of the size of our community. This is a relatively small town when it comes to NFL standards. We look at that as an advantage. It's a lot easier here to get close to your fans all year round and Monday through Sunday, not just at the ballpark, than it would be maybe in a bigger city. We try to take advantage of that in what we do in our marketing.
Saints Digest would be another that I didn't mention previously. Wanted to ask you about the ticket pricing as well, the Scaling the House. In your estimation, how did that go over? How well received was it?
I think that we're going to take a look at that again in 2000. It went over fine. Our attendance was about the same as it was the year before, and we only won 3 football games. I think there was some initial reaction to the pricing, which in reality was a price adjustment, not a price increase. We had been so many years, since 1995 up until 99, without an across-the-board increase. We had almost slid off the scale of NFL pricing, the bottom of the scale. Needed to do something to get our pricing more in line with what's going on around the league. Going forward, I think you'll see us take another look at scaling some of the tickets down probably in the upper deck, and making sure, however, at the same time that we stay about at the NFL average in our overall pricing scheme. You have to do that to be competitive, no matter where you live, no matter what your market's like.
Greg, thanks very much for the visit. We appreciate it. Wish you nothing but the best in the year 2000 here, and hopefully the Saints will have some positive things happening here in the very near future.
Go Saints.
All right, when we return in just a moment, we'll visit.
Here's Jim Besquill.
Hello and welcome to 4th Down on 4. The Saints owner Tom Benson is hoping he'll soon be welcoming a new general manager to run his franchise. The Saints had their best years under the Jims, Finks and Mora. Benson hopes his next decision will produce similar success. Mike Haas explores what Benson's next move could be.
These are files. All those individuals in there, you can just see them. That we have started that process I told you about, the search process that we took on.
That process included the hiring of General Manager Jim Finks in January of 1986, and 2 weeks thereafter, Jim Mora as head coach. It is that line of action and fortune Tom Benson wants to duplicate now. And ironically, fired head coach Mike Ditka concurs.
You know, whoever they bring in is going to run the show. And he's going to have, I'm sure, if he doesn't, he has to have the authority that Mr. Finks had. And if that happens, then he's going to make some hard calls, and it could be the answer.
When you think of possible general managers, you can draw a line in pencil to a head coach as well. Washington Redskins consultant Charlie Casserly met with Houston officials on Friday, though he says the Saints have contacted him as well. Joining an expansion franchise on the ground floor certainly has a big upside.
Well, that's certainly one of the attractions of the franchise, because you get a chance to hire people as you go along, build everybody into the same philosophy, on the same page. So I think that's a great attraction.
After an average, then positive tenure in Washington, Casserly is on the other side now, a free agent with a solid resume.
You just have to go through everyone individually. I mean, I know most of the people involved. Certainly I know the teams in the league. And I think you're flattered that people are interested in you. But I also think you have to use some common sense in this, is that you have to use good judgment in making decisions. I don't think there's a bad decision I can make if I'm fortunate to have alternates from between one club and another.
Casserly has ties to St. Louis Rams offensive coordinator Mike Martz, who spent 2 years in Washington as the quarterback's coach. In Philadelphia, Director of Football Operations Tom Modrak has been questioned about his interest in the New Orleans job. Modrak spent 20 years in the Pittsburgh Steelers organization, working with former Saints coach Dom Capers for 3 years in the early 90s. Whoever wins out for the job as head coach, Ditka's advice is to win and win early.
Once you create the game plan, stay with it. Find out what the weaknesses are, what supposedly the weaknesses of the football team are, where the personnel is thin, and try to get into those areas right away. And it doesn't have to be, well, it's going to be a little hard this year through the draft, but it could be through some selective free agents, and then I think you got to look hard for college free agents.
Ditka's search for foxhole players led to 3 draft classes that produced few impact players. Of those 3 classes, only 9 players had significant roles on the team. Ditka stands behind the picks and says the situation is better now than when he arrived.
The things that have to be done are pretty evident. I mean, Charlie can do the things that have to be done, and the new people to come in will know what it is. There's a lot of good things there. There are really. I think that a lot of the things we did were right. I mean, with some of the draft picks.
And a draft pick is something the new coach, whoever it is, won't have in the first or third round of 2000. Mike Haas for 4th Down on 4.
Mike Hatley was considered one of the candidates. He just signed a 3-year extension with the Bears as Vice President of Player Personnel, though he can leave for a promotion, and Charlie Casserly reportedly to interview here tomorrow. Archie Munning joins us tonight on 4th Down on 4 to talk about Casserly right off the bat. Houston, a team interested. They're not going to have a football operation, a team on the field for another 2 years. If it comes down to the Saints and Houston, with regards to the fact that he starts from scratch with Houston, that he'd have more money to spend with Houston, why would he choose the Saints?
Well, that'll be his decision. Yeah. Certainly, he's experienced in the business, and here you say, well, we're not in great shape without draft choices, but we do have money here to spend on free agency. And you know, you can look around the league and you can tell, yeah, things don't look just rosy right now. But it doesn't take 5 years anymore to bring an organization back. You see it every year where somebody's jumping up and doing it in 1 and 2 years by just the chemistry. It takes some good fortune and luck there, but the chemistry falls just right.
It seems like Tom Benson's had more of a hands-on approach with this team over the years. do you suppose the next guy that comes here, Benson's going to have to take a step back in a sense and let him take over the operation all to himself,
Well, I think it would be I think a Charlie Casserly is certainly going to know that he's in total charge. You know, when Mr. Benson was new to the business, when he hired Jim Finks pretty much ran. He was the chief, and then when he passed away, at that time it was kind of a trend for owners that seemed to get more and more involved. Jerry Jones primarily over in Dallas, and Mr. Benson I think was getting out of some of his other businesses. So you know they didn't really name anyone right off the bat. It was the three-way deal there for a while with Bill Q. Herrick, Jim Mower, and Jim Mora, and Mr. Benson more involved, and that wasn't working. So they made the change 3 years ago. Now, obviously, in his opinion, that hadn't worked out. We're starting again. So I'd be surprised if he's not looking for someone that he's going to give total control of the football operation to.
Jets, Pats, Packers, Saints. What would be the draw for the Saints over those other three teams mentioned? For a coach coming here.
Oh, for a coach. Well, I think that, yeah, you look at your personnel. But as I said, everyone knows now in this time, the league's gone through such a drastic change in the last 5 years that you don't look just at personnel. You know, with things going right, if you've got cooperation and a team, and I don't mean the football players, I mean the front office, organization, ownership, that team pulling together, that you can turn something around and get it going. So I think you look at the working relationship with your owner. Can you win? Do you really think you can win? And if that's the case, then you go to the place that I mean, I don't think everyone's going to have four choices between those teams, and someone will be talking to the same people. But there's enough good football people around there to go around. There's a good, capable person out there.
Quickly, do you think between the GM and coach, the first order of business, player personnel-wise, would be to get a quarterback, or do they have to go right
address
after?
that? Yeah. I mean, when they turn to the talent pool, that's where it all starts, and you got to address that. And they'll have their opinions, being football people, and I'm sure they'll research it. And
O'Donnell and Blake,
you look at the guys out there, and everyone's got different opinions of a Jeff Blake or an O'Donnell. What's going to happen with Jeff George? My guess is Minnesota's going to keep him, but that's what their job is, to evaluate. But it's a harder job these days. It's not just evaluating the talent; it's making the dollars fit too.
All right, Art, stick around. We'll have more Saints to come when fourth down returns, and we'll talk Ricky Williams taking shots at his former coach, his current team, and mates when fourth down comes back.
I said from day one he's the player I wanted. Whether that's right or wrong, it doesn't matter. He's ours. You know, we can be criticized for it, or we can be applauded for it, and that doesn't bother me either way either. He's the player Tom wanted. He's the player Bill wanted. He's the player Bruce wanted. So we did the thing that this organization said we thought would make us best, fastest.
Ricky's a football player. You guys knew that a long time ago, before I got him, or before we got him here, rather. You all knew that. He's a good footballer. Besides that, he's tough. But I think he's an awfully good football player. And I might have, like I said, you know, you can't, you can do anything you want to do. Let me paraphrase that, or let me clarify that. But I'm not going to back off of our decision. No, I didn't care what people said about it back in April, and I don't care what they say about it now.
Those the words of Mike Ditka on what was once his prize running back. Here's what Ricky thinks, courtesy of the New York Times. On this past season, this was the worst year of my life in terms of football. I think every player felt that way. This season was a horror story. On Ditka, I didn't ask Ditka to trade all those picks for me, but I think he blamed me for how bad the season went. But Coach Ditka has to look at himself. With Coach, I always felt like he wanted to overuse me as a way of proving that the trade was the right thing to do. I wasn't treated like a person. I was treated like a piece of property. Mike just saw me as a guy to stuff up the middle down after down. I was drafted because in college I did everything. Suddenly here, I was being limited. On his contract, I think a lot of players on the team don't respect me. It all started with my contract. It's obvious that because the problems with my contract, it hurt my chances of making money. I think a lot of players looked at me as ignorant and naive. I am definitely going to fix some things with my deal. I think the team should fix it, but I don't know if they will. I'm not going to hold out, but I did the contract so I can get on the playing field quickly. The team took advantage of that. To me, it's sad what happened with my contract. I played through pain, did the right thing, and get very little monetarily for it. There are other players on this team who did not do half of what I did and got paid a lot more. A lot of players did work hard this season, but too many didn't.
Wow. Wow. That's, you know, it's understandable players are frustrated from a 3-13 season, but really that sounds ignorant on his part.
Well, it's a lot of it's immature too. Well, I guess you understand he's a young player, but I tell you, Jim, I'm in the media just a little bit, but I don't ever have to interview Ricky Williams. I don't have to do it daily like you guys are supposed to. And I think it's just absurd for the way he treated the New Orleans media during the course of the whole year. Guys got to get on the floor by the shower and talk behind his helmet, all this kind of stuff the entire year, and then go and give an interview and tell those things to a guy from the New York Times. And it's really not even good reporting because the guy at the New York Times doesn't know everything that went on here. He doesn't know about the thing. He's just taking Ricky's word for it. And those are just some very ridiculous comments, you know. And, you know, Mike Ditka's a tough guy. He lost his job this week, but he doesn't need to be blamed in this thing. If anything, I bet if Mike would, he may tell you, I don't know. I thought Mike went overboard in kind of Ricky's spoiled. He's spoiled by his success in college, and Mike went out of his way, you know. And I thought really early in the year in training camp, especially some of the other players would resent it a little bit. Sure. But of course he had made the trade for Ricky. But this thing about play, I mean, everybody plays hurt in the NFL, and you're supposed to play hurt. And on contract, I mean, he should have thought about this last January. There are hundreds. I went through this for 2 years. I interviewed guys. There's 100 good agents out there, and most of them have done a contract before, and he decided to pick one that never done a contract. So he made that bed. He's got to sleep in it.
Yeah, you talked about in terms of covering him all year, between the helmet, between the sleeping in the locker room, between missing the bus, between what he put the media through here. I was talking to you earlier about the fact that you get the sense that a lot of his decisions that he makes is kind of, he purposely likes to make decisions to go against the grain.
He does. And like I said, he's a young player, and he's not the first one that's probably come out. I mean, this is wrong what he's doing right here, but he's not the first person that's said the wrong thing or done the wrong thing as a young player. He certainly, whoever the new general manager, new coach is, he's going to be the feature guy on his football team next year. So the best thing he can do is just get himself in good shape and come try to have the year that he expected to have this year. He was a great college player. He kind of thought it was just going to be the same thing, and he went through one of the things that it's the worst part of football, being hurt. And I know it frustrated him, and it probably, you know, even was magnified by the fact the other guy did well. But I mean, he's going to have his day in the sun, but he needs to clear up some of this, because that's absurd.
Yeah, because you have to wonder how his mates are going to take some of the things that he said coming into next season. Let's switch gears, Arch, to the NFL and the playoff situation right now. Peyton and the Colts, we know who their opponent's going to be now. I'm sure you had a chance to watch yesterday's playoffs and saw that ending in that Tennessee game. That was unbelievable.
Well, you know, it's funny how and usually in the early playoff, that's not that's instant replay is a plus in this situation, in my opinion.
And that's an awfully tough team that Peyton and the Colts get, Tennessee.
Tennessee has got as good a chance to win this whole thing as anybody.
In your wildest dreams, did you ever think that it's realistic to think that Peyton will be playing in the Super Bowl this year? Did you ever think that this would come?
Oh, certainly not. And they really did start last year with a complete start over and had a young offense and a defense that wasn't any good. And this year they got some new defensive players, but it still wasn't supposed to be good enough. And if you look at their stats, maybe they're not as good as the other defenses in the playoffs. But their offense is young and productive, and their defense is just fought. They've been good in the red zone. but they still bend a lot. They give up more than anyone else. So they won a bunch of games, but they won a bunch of them right in the last 2 minutes. So it's a plus for them to get to play Tennessee, to get to play them at home and have their crowd, but it'll be a tough game. It'll be a good football game.
A lot to look forward to. Both AFC games here on Channel 4. Archer, thanks for coming down.
Okay, Jim.
All right, stay right here when fourth down comes back. Tenure left us with 15 wins and plenty of thoughts about what could have been. Iron Mike will most be remembered about what he said rather than what he did. To use TV lingo, he's the king of the soundbite. And here's a collection of some of his best from his time spent here in the Crescent City.
There will be no lack of will in this organization. And anybody who has a lack of will not be here. It's that simple. People say, can you do things the way you did them before? I don't know, but I'm sure as hell gonna try. I guess I was wrong. Well, I think we hit bottom, gang. I'm not gonna kill anybody.
Where the hell you going, son?
Period, cut and dried. It's nobody's concern but ours. Nobody's. Next. It's fun to watch. I don't know if I'll make it. Talk to the trainer. Next. I have about 9 different personalities, and I don't know which one's talking right now, and I don't know which one talked to you, and I know which one talked to them. What do you care? Okay. If you were 2-7, you'd be in a bad mood, too. Only me. I made the call. I mean, you got to say, what the hell's going on? That's all you can ask for. Guys are going to get in the foxhole and fight to the end. I kind of think he's kind of a good foxhole guy. If people don't understand that, then we'll have to change the people. We're terrible. We're worse than that. We do worse than that right now. That's just a fact. Hey, we actually suck.
One, two, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
I'm probably the wrong guy for this job, I'll say that. Probably better off getting somebody else. Somebody else. Somebody else. Somebody else.
Somebody else is coming. Our time is done. Don't forget Tom Benson's schedule.